There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Friend, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in your community. Well, you've got trouble, my friend. Right here, I say you've got trouble right here in River City. Why, sure, I'm a billiard player. Certainly mighty proud to say it. Always mighty proud to say it. I consider the hours I spend with a cue in my hand to be golden. Help you cultivate horse sense and a cool head and a keen eye. You ever try and find yourself an ironclad lead from a three-railed billiard shot? Just as I say it takes judgment, brains, and maturity to score in a balkline game, I'd say that any boob can take and shove a ball in a pocket. And I call that sloth. The first big steps on the roads of the depths of degradation. I say first, medicinal wine from a teaspoon, then beer from a bottle. And the next thing you know, your son is playing for money in a pinchback suit. And listening to some big out-of-town Jasper, hear him talking about horse race gambling. Not a wholesome trotting race, no, but a race where they sat down right on the horse. I'd like to see some stuck-up jockey boy sitting on Dan Patch make your blood boil? Well, I should say. Now, friends, let me tell you what I mean. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets in the table, pockets that mark the difference between a gentleman and a bum with a capital B, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. And all the week wrong, your River City youth will be frittering away. I say your young men will be frittering away their noontime, summertime chore time too. Get the ball in the pocket. Never mind getting dandelions pulled or the screen door patched or the beefsteak pounded. Never mind pumping any water till your parents are caught with the cistern empty on a Saturday night, and that's trouble. Yes, you got lots and lots of trouble. I'm thinking of the kids in the Knickerbockers, shirt-tailed young ones peeking in the pool hall winter after school. You got trouble. Folks, right here in River City. Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. Now, I know all you folks are the right kind of parents. I'm gonna be perfectly frank. Would you like to know what kind of conversation goes on when they're loafing around that hall? They'll be trying out Bevo, trying out Q-Babs, trying out tailor-mades like cigarette fiends, and bragging all about how they're gonna cover up a telltale breath with sense. And one fine night, they leave the pool hall, heading for the dance at the Armory. Libertine men and scarlet women and ragtime, shameless music will grab your son, your daughter, in the arms of the jungle, animal instinct, mass hysteria. Friends, the idle brain is the devil's playground. Oh, you've got trouble. Right here in River City with capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. That stands for pool. Surely got trouble. Right here. Remember the Maine, Plymouth Rock, and the Golden Rule. Children. Oh, mothers of River City. Heed that warning before it's too late. Watch for the telltale signs of corruption. The moment your son leaves the house, does he rebuckle his knickerbockers below the knee? Is there a nicotine stain on his index finger? A dime novel hidden in the corn crib? Is he starting to memorize jokes from Captain Billy's whiz bang? Are certain words creeping into his conversation? Words like swell and so's your old man. Well, if so, my friends, you got trouble right here in River City with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. You surely got trouble right here. Remember the Maine, Plymouth Rock, and the Golden Rule. Those children. Oh, you've got trouble. You've got terrible, terrible trouble. But Professor Harold Hill's on hand. River City's going to have her boys' band, as sure as the Lord made little green apples. And that band's going to have uniforms. And Willie, Tommy, Fred, Jude, all remembers the great day of John Philip Sousa. W.C. Handy, the great creator, all came to town on the same glorious day. Bum, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. This is the Thomas Hunt Show, but we've got more books for you. Here's a reading from Jocko Willink, Discipline Equals Freedom, a field manual. No more. No more. No more. No more excuses. No more, I'll start tomorrow. No more, just this once. No more accepting the shortfalls of my own will. No more taking the easy road. No more bowing down to whatever unhealthy or unproductive thoughts float through my mind. No. No more. No more waiting for the perfect moment. And no more indecision. and no more lies, no more weakness. No, no more. Now is the time for strength, and through strength, and through will, and through unwavering discipline, I will become what I want to be. I will become who I want to be. And then, and only then, will I rest and say, no more. Strong stuff from Jocko there, almost Raven-esque, right? A little bit of once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping on my chamber door. So on and so forth, but we've got more books. It's Saturday. It's a big day for books, right? Let's see, where were we? First, we got to start with introductions, of course. You look a little shy. Let me introduce you to that leg of mutton, said the Red Queen. Alice, mutton, mutton, Alice. The leg of mutton got up in the dish and made a little bow to Alice, and Alice returned the bow, not knowing whether to be frightened or amused. May I give you a slice? She said, taking up the knife and fork, and looking from one queen to the other. Certainly not, the Red Queen said very decidedly. It isn't etiquette to cut any one you've been introduced to. Remove the joint. And the waiters carried it off and brought a large plum pudding in its place. I won't be introduced to the pudding, please, Alice said rather hastily, or we shall get no dinner at all. May I give you some? Alice, pudding. Remove the pudding. And the waiters took it away, so quickly that Alice couldn't even return its bow. However, she didn't see why the Red Queen should be the only one to give orders. So, as an experiment, she called out, Waiter, bring back the pudding. And there it was again in a moment, like a conjuring trick. It was so large that she couldn't help feeling a little shy with it, as she had been with the mutton. However, she conquered her shyness by a great effort, and cut a slice, and handed it to the Red Queen. What impertinence, said the pudding. I wonder how you'd like if I were to cut a slice out of you, you creature. It spoke in a thick, sooty sort of voice, and Alice hadn't a word to say in reply. She could only sit and look at it and gasp. Make a remark, said the Red Queen. It's ridiculous to leave all the conversation to pudding. It's ridiculous to leave all the conversation to pudding. Of course, Alice in Wonderland. And what Saturday morning wouldn't be complete without Charles Bukowski, the poems you love to hate, the drunken asshole who says he's a drunken asshole. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. People are leaving already. It's only Saturday. Oh, we can't be in such a hurry. Here's a Bukowski poem about other poets. So it's like a meta thing. You have to know who these people are. So if you don't know who these people are, maybe this is a great list of poems and authors and writers to check out. So let's see what Bukowski was saying here. Them and us. They were all out on the front porch talking. Hemingway, Faulkner, T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, Hampson, Wally Stevens, E.E. Cummings, and a few others. Listen, said my mother, can't you ask them to stop talking? No, I said. They are talking garbage, said my father. They ought to get jobs. They have jobs, I said. Like hell, said my father. Exactly, I said. Just then, Faulkner came staggering in. He found the whiskey in the cupboard and went outside with it. A terrible person, said my mother. Then she got up and peeked out on the porch. They've got a woman with them, she said, only she looks like a man. That's Gertrude, I said. There's another guy flexing his muscles, she said. He claims he can whip any three of them. That's Ernie, I said. And he, my father pointed to me, wants to be like them. Is that true? My mother asked. Not like them, I said, but of them. You get a goddamn job, said my father. Shut up, I said. What? I said shut up. I'm listening to these men. My father looked at his wife. This is no son of mine. I hope not, I said. Faulkner came staggering into the room again. Where's the telephone? He asked. What the hell for? My father asked. Ernie's just blown his brains out, he said. You see what happens to men like that? Screamed my father. I got up slowly and helped Bill find the telephone. That was fucked up, huh? Little Hemingway history knowledge required there. But yeah, that was messed up. Gotcha there. Oh well, let's see what happened with this one. Elvis lives. The boy was going to take the bus out to see the Graceland mansion. Then the Greyhound lines went on strike. There were only 2 clerks and 2 lines at the station, and the lines were 50 to 65 people long. After 2 hours in line, one of the clerks told the boy that his bus would leave as soon as the substitute driver arrived. When will that be? The boy asked. We can't be certain, the clerk answered. The boy slept on the floor that night, but by 9 a.m. the next morning, the substitute driver still had not arrived. The boy had to wait in another line to get to the toilet. He finally got a stall, carefully fitted the sanitary seat paper cover, pulled down his pants, his shorts, and sat down. Luckily, the boy had a pencil. He found a clean space among all the smeared and demented scrawlings and drawings, and very carefully and very heavily he printed Heartbreak Hotel. Then he dropped the first one. All right, a little bit better. This is a good time to like the show. If you haven't gotten a chance, you can like the show by pushing thumbs up down below. If you're on Facebook, you can push like on there. You could push retweet on Twitter. You could push favorite on Twitter. All of these are free things that you could do to help spread the word about the show. And it may seem like nothing, and you're like, I have to like every video I see now, and every time I go to YouTube, they're all like this and subscribe to that. But it really is, that's how YouTube suggests new videos. We are at the mercy of the algorithm, right? The algorithm says, do the same show every day at the same time, and I will reward you if you get likes. It's a powerful algorithm. Doesn't care about the actual content of the show. They can't tell anything about that, but they can tell if you like it. Duolingo says do Duolingo. I'm not reading that one. Too many words. War. War, war, war. The yellow monster. The eater of mind and body. War. The indescribable. The pleasures of the mad. The final argument of ungrown men. Does it belong? Do we? As we approach the last flash of our chance. 1 flower left. 1 second. Breathing like this. There you go. Charles Bukowski from the Last Night on Earth poems. I think these might be posthumous. It's tough to say. Usually they say new poems if they're posthumous. 1992. He was probably still around. Bonaparte's retreat. Fred, they called him. He always sat at the end of the bar, near the doorway, and he was always there, from opening to closing. He was there more than I was, which is saying something. He never talked to anybody. He just sat there, drinking his glasses of draft beer. He looked straight ahead, right across the bar, but he never looked at anybody. And there's one other thing. He got up now and then and went to the jukebox. And he always played the same record, Bonaparte's Retreat. He played that song all day and all night long. It was his song, all right. He never got tired of it. And when his draft beers really got to him, he'd get up and play Bonaparte's Retreat 6 or 7 times running. Nobody knew who he was or how he made it, only that he lived in a hotel room across the street and was the first customer in the bar each day as it opened. I protested to Clyde, the bartender. Listen, he's driving crazy with that thing. Eventually, all the other records are rotated, but Bonaparte's Retreat remains. What does it mean? It's his song, said Clyde. Don't you have a song? Well, I came in about 1 p.m. this day, and all the regulars were there, but Fred wasn't. I ordered my drink, then said out loud, "Hey, where's Fred?" "Fred's dead," said Clyde. I looked down at the end of the bar. The sun came through the blinds, but there was nobody at the end stool. "You're kidding me," I said. "Fred's back in the crapper or something." "Fred didn't come in this morning," said Clyde. So I went over to his hotel room, and there he was, stiff as a cigar box. Everybody was very quiet. Those guys never said much anyhow. "Well," I said, "at least we won't have to hear Bonaparte's Retreat anymore." Nobody said anything. "Is the record still in the jukebox?" I asked. "Yes," said Clyde. "Well," I said, "I'm going to play it one more time." I got up. "Hold it," said Clyde. He walked around the bar, walked to the jukebox. He had a little key in his hand, and he put the key in the juke, and he opened it. He reached in, and he pulled out a record. Then he took the record and broke it over his knee. It was his song, said Clyde. Then he locked the juke, took the broken record behind the bar, and trashed it. The name of the bar was Jules. It was on Crenshaw and Adams, and it's not there anymore. There you go. Little Bukowski. Get you started today. Today is Saturday, April 11th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt. This is the Thomas Hunt Show. Makes sense. The price of Bitcoin is even, up just 0.11% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,863, a high of 6,957, and a low of 6,800. That's $1 for 14,577 Satoshis, just below the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. Checking out the Dow Jones Industrial Average, they're closed again, this time because it's Saturday. Why do markets close on weekends? Why do markets close on religious holidays? Previously, the Dow was up 1.22%, with a last of 23,719, slightly above a previous close of 23,433. Checking out coronavirus cases worldwide, previously around 1.6 million infected, 99,000 dead. Quick refresh. The new numbers, 1,732,306 infected worldwide, 106,347 deaths. Stay the fuck home. Don't spread the virus. How do you spread the virus? Human to human. How do you stay home? Stay home. No human to human. No spread virus. Wear a mask. You got to go outside, wear a mask. Even a cloth mask, now recommended by the CDC and the WHO. They didn't used to recommend it, but it's always worked in Asia. These guys wore masks. This is the 1918 pandemic in the United States. Everyone wore a mask. What a clever idea. Good enough for 1918. Good enough for 2020. This is the likely curve. We're likely going over our first curve. We're going to go down again. We're going to get super excited. We're going to go outside. Then we're going to go over our next curve. Probably around right about here, we'll lock down again. Over that, super excited, outside, lock down again, super excited, and until we get the vaccine. But hopefully it gets smaller and smaller. Our hospital capacity increases. We get better at social distancing. We get better at wearing masks. We get used to staying home. Like this show. Thanks so much to everybody who liked this show. I'm going to go try to find the YouTube video if it's working. See if it'll play the video twice, pop out the chat, all the things that I usually do. But I didn't tweet about it today. Just went ahead and pushed that launch button. Hey, we have 15 people that like the show, and 26 people are watching us. So shout out to the chat. Say hello to everybody. Say hi, where you're from. Introduce yourself. There's no reason not to talk in the chat. It's your chat. Well, it's our chat, it's our house that you're in. And don't wipe your feet on the rug or anything, but wipe your feet on the mat before you come in. Don't track any mud into our nice clean chat. But still, enjoy it. United States coronavirus cases. Previously around 476,000 infected, around 17,000 dead. New numbers. We are over the 500,000 in the United States. Way to go. 506,008 people infected with the coronavirus. 19,666 dead. Oof. So much for good numbers. We're getting bad numbers now. Hey, we've got new information from my friend Jackson. You might have heard of him, Jackson Palmer. He invented Dogecoin, but he hates it. He made these cool graphs based on the COVID tracking project, which is open source data. What I really want to show you about these new charts is I think what Nate's been talking about, test results. We should be looking more at testing and if we're testing a lot of people. So this is U.S. results. We can see testing starts out very slowly. There's pretty much no testing in February, March. We see about halfway through March, we're testing just a little bit of people. But testing is starting to ramp up. We see here a large amount of tests, probably a previous day or previous collection. But it is definitely going up. We're seeing now 60%, or I'm not sure which number. We're seeing 150,000 tests per day on average, I'd say. And that we're seeing a result of positive tests at only 20%. So that's good. We just need to keep giving those tests. We want to see these test numbers go up more and more. We've also got the chart of hospital usage in the United States. We have hit the 0 peak day use. So the United States now is at peak hospital bed capacity. Probably well over the ICU capacity. Yeah, we have a 12,000 beds shortage of hospital beds, 8,000 bed shortage of ICU beds, and 15,000 needed ventilators. It doesn't seem to have information if we have the ventilators. Let's see. These are estimates of needed ventilators. Generally, what we're looking at here, this big purple cloud, pink cloud, this is the potential dead, right? So at a top, 240,000 if everything goes wrong. At a floor, maybe 20,000, right? That would be a big win. Right here in the middle, 80,000 seems about the peak dead. But we're going to keep an eye on these charts as the situation continues. Today's Friday. Yay! No, it's Saturday. It was Friday. That was fun. Checking out some Bitcoin news this morning. BitMEX CEO warns Bitcoin price could absolutely retest 3K. Ooh. Bitcoin lost the 7,000K support, the 7,000 support right after a 1,000 Bitcoin who buy deposit. So somebody just sold 1,000 Bitcoin at 7K. Yowza. Bitcoin futures volume on CME and backed fell sharply in March. This is pretty much what we expected, right? We had all the Wall Street people. They probably have shorts to cover other disasters from the market. They would take their money out of Bitcoin. The volume would go down, then less people would be trading it. So yes, this only matches up with what we already thought would happen. Bitcoin drops to key level as 100% rally since crash. Looks shaky. And you know what's not shaky? The value of our fundraiser. Check it out on Tallycoin, tallyco.in. You can even find our fundraiser at -1 million. Everyone wants the World Crypto Network to raise $1 million. All you'd have to do is donate 145 Bitcoin, and we would instantly hit our goal. Until then, if you wanted to donate $5 or $10, that would help support the show and give you a chance to try out Bitcoin or Lightning. We accept both right here. Our last donation was on March 17th of 500,000 Satoshis. Thanks so much for your support. Price is still the same. Market is still closed. But we've got more news. Oh, no, not more news. Let's get a book before we do more news. We've got International Book Day today. Our first book. Oh, now I don't want the graphics. Again, go away. All right. Our first book is the Pergamon Museum. They have this thing in Germany, in Berlin, called Museum Island. And on Museum Island, there are a series of, wait for it, museums. Yes, not surprised. One of them, they have this structure, which is called the Pergamon Gate. And this structure was reconstructed. It was found in, I want to say like Turkey, something like that. And what they did is they brought it back in boxes, piece by piece, and they reconstructed it. You can't really tell from here, but there's a lot of different colored plaster where they used some original pieces and some new pieces. What's really neat about the Pergamon Museum and this gate is that right here on the other side, this is the Market Gate from Miletus in Turkey, and Miletus Hall, and they brought it back in pieces, but let's see if I can find it. On the other side, we have the Babylonian gates of, well, first we have this incredible hallway where, as you can see on the left and right, these blue tiled lions here are from Babylon. These are original. And then the top sections there, the blue tiles again, are original. This is one of the ones that when they took it apart, they found that the workers had labeled all of the pieces like A1, A2, so on, right? And they're like, hey, this is super useful. We'll use this when we reassemble it. So not exactly what they intended it for. Here's the gate. This is the major piece. Truly incredible, awe-taking to be there. But again, what the heck is it doing in the middle of Berlin? But yeah, that's not. This is called the Ishtar Gate. It was from Babylon, the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II, 604 to 562 BC. Fired bricks with colored glazes. And it has many of those lion sculptures and other animal sculptures. The Ishtar Gate at the Pergamon Museum in Berlin. Check it out. And now more news. But don't worry, we have other books from Berlin, from Museum Island, that we'll be showing to you today. And the other museums are, well, it's not the Ishtar Gate, which was really awe-inspiring, really taking. And I have more pictures of my own to show of these if you care. I doubt anyone does, but I'll keep showing some international books because it's Saturday and I think it's fun. So, hey, we did the Bitcoin group yesterday. Turned out pretty good. I agree with this guy, Paul. He's talking about the coronavirus. He says, this war needs better propaganda. I want posters with a message like, if you go to the supermarket with your mouth hole uncovered, you're helping the enemy win, but with more clever wording and imagery. He'll give $1,000 and a Medal of Honor to whoever does it best / most viral. So that's a pretty good deal. You could get on that, especially I think our friend Philippe might be able to do this. He's great with old World War II propaganda, shaping it into a Bitcoin message. I'm sure it wouldn't take much at all to put the the one where he puts his hand over his mouth, the loose lips sink ships. That could be a, cover your damn mouth, wear a mask type poster. I'm sure there's a lot of great propaganda type posters that we could make. Stephen King writes, they say, Salem's Lot scribe Gary Dauberman will also direct Stephen King's Vampire Tale. And Salem Lot is actually one of the few Stephen Kings I've read. It was quite good. Stephen King himself writes, here's a unique idea. Do the book. Oh, every author on movies. That's all what they wish. Interesting study out of Austria. More than 3 times as many Austrians were infected with the coronavirus in early April as officially reported, according to a government-sponsored survey of a random sampling. Still, the elevated numbers represent less than 1% of the country. So it was spread more, but not very significantly, around 1%. Pretty sure I've been here too. This is in Vienna. Robert Reich. The media failed to mention it, but the GOP snuck a bailout for the private jet industry into the coronavirus stimulus package. No excise taxes for the rest of the year. No fuel taxes for the rest of the year. Billions in loans and loan guarantees. More socialism for the rich. It's pretty right on there. Not sure why we're bailing out the private jet industry. Let them fly, coach. Let them fly, coach. I want to give a shout out to the 19 people in the audience who pushed that like button. Way to go. We have about 39 people watching and 19 people pushed the like button. Pretty sweet. Oh boy, Donald Trump is telling people what kind of questions they should ask. That doesn't seem very American. As Mark Fullman writes, it has become so numbingly normal to watch Trump make false statements and attack journalists, telling them what questions they should and shouldn't ask. That's not how democracy works. It's an even stranger and more twisted charade when thousands of Americans are dying daily. A little alliteration there, dying daily. Trump wants to relax social distancing as soon as possible. His latest coronavirus briefing shows he doesn't understand how we get there. And we can't simply just go back outside because we want to. And we can't simply ignore the piles and piles of bodies. Maybe we can. How do you get to work? Oh, I just step over the piles of bodies and go to work. Sounds nice. I like this advice here, especially the Zach and Matt show. They're big Andrew Yang supporters, so I know where they're going on this. They said, Obama's advice to Biden on picking a VP, find the yin to your yang. Obama also said the pick would have to shore up areas where Biden is lacking, particularly his lack of technological savvy, which is suddenly more important than ever. So it seems pretty clear to me that President Obama is telling Vice President Biden to pick Andrew Yang as his vice president. It would be an amazing pick. They could come out in favor of basic income, which even the Republicans support right now with the pandemic crisis. They could maybe even do single payer. I don't know. There's all kinds of things. But we all know Biden's not going to do this. We all know that Biden, consummate strategist, has already given up his ability to pick his own vice president. He cannot choose Andrew Yang, even if he wanted to. Because during one of the debates, for reasons I can't understand, Biden gave away his ability to pick VP. He said during the debate that he would pick a woman. So his ability to choose has been cut at least by 50%, depending on the numbers. Probably even smaller if you really consider who are the 3 women in the Democratic Party right now that are at this level. Maybe 4, maybe 5. Let's do the top 5. Okay. We all know it's going to be Sherry Abrams out of Georgia, the loser of the governor's race. She's an African-American woman. Could be Elizabeth Warren. She'd be great, very progressive. Could be Amy Klobuchar. She's boring. She's from the middle of the road. Biden would like that. Could be Kamala Harris, but no one seems to like her. She seems like a cop. And, of course, like they're saying in the chat, It could always be Hillary, right? Hillary's a woman. But yeah, it's going to be Sherry Abrams. It's going to be a big announcement on the day, and then it's going to completely disappear. I do kind of like the idea of seeing Pence debate a woman, though. That's kind of interesting. You know, Pence isn't allowed to be in a room alone with a woman that's not his wife. Seriously. Strange. All right, let's keep moving. Excuse me. Oh, here we go. Here's a quote we're going to play. This guy says it's his favorite Trump moment ever. Old Testament or New Testament? He says probably equal. And this is a classic quote of Trump trying to name his favorite Bible verse. Excuse me. Now, I'm sure you could all do it. You know, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. You know, let the least, you know, to the least among you is what you should give to me. I mean, these kind of things, all these kind of Jesus quotes, Jesus sayings, thinking about, you know, lambs and fishes. Jesus went around with a basket and collected all this food, and then there was more food than they needed. And that miracle, changing water into wine. Doubting Thomas sticking his hands inside of Jesus's wounds. There are so many moving moments of the Bible as someone, you know, who was raised Catholic and these kind of things, or anyone who's even just read the story or seen a movie about it. I mean, Noah, how about Noah, you know, let my people go? Just reference the movie, right? They split the waters, the Egypt thing, the reign of the plagues, the frogs, the locusts. There's a lot of, you know, Hammurabi, like what about the thing where Abraham, they bring him the son, and it's like, oh, do you love him? Do you love him? Well, cut him in half. Who's going to cut him in half? And the one guy's like, I won't cut him in half, you know? And then that's the guy who should have the son. Or the prodigal son. He goes away and, you know, things are bad and it's unhappy, but he comes home and the father welcomes him home. Like, I mean, I'm not a big Bible guy, but there's a lot of moving and valuable stories about life in there, right? Positive messages with, you know, putting all the ways it's used negatively aside. There's plenty of great positive. And you just, you know, just name one out, you know, I am the Lamb, your God. You don't have to quote the numbers and things. I don't know the number things, but all of those stories, I would bet 99% I'm right, are in the Bible. Oh, but here we go. Here's the president.
You've been talking about how it's your favorite book.
Bible is his favorite book.
I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that
you
like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible... The whole Bible is an incredible... I joke... very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
That's a classic. That is a classic. The real substantive thing that he says is that he likes his own book. What's your favorite Bible book? Art of the Deal. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's an old clip. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. Guys on the internet love the Trump quotes. Of course, exactly 1 minute apart, Trump is talking about politics. Nobody wants to say that if Elizabeth Warren gets out of the race before Super Tuesday, crazy Bernie Sanders wins every state in a blowout. Not even close. Haven't heard even one member of the fake news establishment even mention this irrefutable fact. And I'm not so sure about this. I mean, again, we're looking backwards here. It seemed like Biden's support came from somewhere else than Warren. It doesn't really seem like the combined Warren plus Sanders support would beat Biden. Warren did win most every state until Biden flipped everything. But again, the main message here is that a minute later, Andrew Cuomo, President Andrew Cuomo, said, "We continue to endure great pain as we lost 777 New Yorkers yesterday. We feel this loss deeply as a state, community, and New York family. It is a terrible, heartbreaking loss." It's not exactly the time to talk about politics, but then again, it's all about your level of control. A lot of people have control over themselves. It's an important thing. A lot of people are like Tommy Boy. They just run into the room. They just like smash everything, fall on the table, drink all the drinks. Tommy Boy. We've got big news in Las Vegas. All work on Allegiant Stadium, where the Las Vegas Raiders will someday play, has been paused as they discuss shutting down the massive construction project temporarily. And as you can expect, this is because of the social distancing rule. Multiple workers have gotten sick on this project, and they are not 6 feet apart. They're going to go through and find every task on the project that they can do successfully with workers 6 feet apart. The same thing is happening across town on the Resorts World project. This is a major, brand new hotel and casino, the first new hotel and casino in Vegas since like 2003, since the failed Drew Fontainebleau project of 2008. And Resorts World has the same thing. Multiple workers on the Resorts World project have come down with coronavirus. Construction does continue. It is considered vital. You have to assume if the structural soundness of this structure was not complete, you can't just stop building it. You have to make it strong. Also, they have deadlines and other complexities. But we are seeing the reality of let's reopen versus the reality of, hey, 2 people on the floor got sick. 2 people on the team got sick. The whole team might get sick now. I mean, you can reopen, but no one can ever go to work again. So you have to beat the virus first. You can't just reopen because you feel like it. This is mostly good news. I don't know how you guys are going to take it, but Google and Apple are teaming up to work on contract tracing technology. So far, it's a voluntary program that would, quote unquote, harness Bluetooth technology in a way that also respects transparency and consent. So we need to use our new technology to fight this virus. They did it in South Korea. They even open sourced the program. We could make a similar version. I'm sure Apple and Google will use that as a source. But yes, this is very creepy for a lot of people. Right now, it's going to be voluntary. Maybe it'll be involuntarily someday, but we're not sure. Either way, we got to do it. We got to beat the virus. We had major news yesterday, at least in my universe. And shout out to our friend in the chat from District. He's probably hanging out because we're not going to have much to do this summer. Burning Man is canceled. I think this is the right decision. I think the org made the right decision. It is a tough decision. You worry about something big like this, canceling it once, it may never come back. I know they canceled Coachella. They canceled all the other big outdoor concerts and festivals. They have more of an economic backing. I'm not sure how strong the Burning Man Festival actually is, despite the high ticket prices and the general success of the festival. But it is canceled this year. No one can go. They say they're going to have a special online Burning Man, calling this year's theme is already the multiverse. So they're going to try to take that theme seriously. And in kind of honor of Burning Man, I started posting a bunch of fun Burning Man pictures on my Twitter. So if you want to see these in higher quality, you can check them out on Twitter at Mad Bitcoins. And I went to Burning Man a couple of times, maybe, kind of every year from 2006 to 2016, something like that. So I got quite a few pictures. Here's some nice ones. This one's from Burning Man 2013. I got to go in a week early to help build a project called the Life Cube. We also worked on the SS Titty Hawk that year, Black Rock City's first aircraft carrier. It was on the back of a school bus. So I got to go in early, and here they are still building a UFO man from that year. You can see the UFO starting to take shape, as well as several of the lifters and loaders that they're using to load the wood. Here's another classic from 2013. This was the first appearance of this art car. This art car is called El Pulpo Magnifico, and it was also featured on The Simpsons. So that's kind of neat. The very first year, it was not a very fancy art car. You can see the base below. It's not a very nice base, despite the incredible, fantastical beauty of this octopus that sprays fire out of its tentacles. It's a great piece. It was built by people that own or work in a junkyard. So they had access to all kinds of crazy junk that they built the piece out of. It's become very popular. I think they put it on a much nicer car, much nicer base the next year, and worked on the computer controls of the arms. I think they can play it like a keyboard now. Just beep, 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 and it goes. The large propane blasts being set off as it activates its fire. It also shoots fire directly out of the top. That's a stronger and louder fire. If you're really interested, I could talk about Burning Man more sometime, and I have more pictures of this and video, of course. Here's another from 2013. Looks like I had a pretty good camera that year. This is the actual Burning Man, UFO Man, while burning. As you can see, just a serious large fire, so much so that it almost backdrops the man, erases the blackness of night. There's not a lot of light out there in the desert, and it's a really good place to take pictures. Definitely one of the reasons that I went so many times. And also, of course, this big fire. I was like, oh, you're going to have a big fire like that on Earth? And I'm on Earth? You think I could make it out to that big fire? We also had some of our friends on Twitter send in photos. Shout out to Jimmy at Crypto Zorro. He's got this nice one of the dust. It was also interesting to see Jimmy's photos and a couple other people who shared their photos, the different way to approach shooting at Burning Man. My photos are more clean, more clear. I wait for a pretty day and I take advantage. Also, in the old days, they didn't like to use cameras at Burning Man. It was actually very frowned upon. You had to have a tag for your camera. And because of that, I used to just shoot on Fridays. I would go out on Friday, do kind of an art day, take a lot of pictures of the art, and that would be it. Nowadays, I guess you can post directly to Instagram from Burning Man. So the walls have broken down. It's not quite as far away as it used to be. I used to spend a week off the internet, which was probably a good thing. It was like a little experiment. Can you live a week off the internet? Shout out to @honey_BRR Satober. He's got this amazing shot from 2019. Sadly, I wasn't there for that, but you can see they've set off kind of like a fuel bomb. I saw one of these one year with the oil derricks, and I went back and tried to find my pictures, and it wasn't there. But somewhere I have cool video of the oil derricks going off, but this same kind of thing. They already have an existing fire. Then they have a large, fuel tube, and they surge the oil or whatever it is, the fuel, through the tube, and it goes boom, and there's a big fire. And you can also see the fireworks above this. Truly a great shot. You can see the man in there. Not by me. This is by @honeybrrr. These are ones that I shot, though. These are from Burning Man 2012. This was a project called The Pirate Ship. As you can see, it's truly amazing. It looks like a beached pirate ship. Inside, it was perfectly decorated, like a Disney project that you could sit down in. It had a journal that there was a kid who had started reading and basically become the storyteller for everyone. So they had to sit there and read the journal. And the journal described an interdimensional trip that the pirate ship had been stranded across dimensions and just appeared here. So it's a really great project built out of Reno by the Generator crew, and really cool stuff. This was a similar project by the same team. This was called The Pier. It may look like not much, kind of like just a pier, but this is a pier in the middle of Burning Man, in the middle of the desert. And it was great. People were fishing off the pier, and people were below the pier. They'd hook little fish onto your thing, and they had lights on the pier. And, of course, the pirate ship was docked at the pier, too. So great project, The Pier and the pirate ship from 2012. Burning Man's a great place to make large art like that. Another shot from @honey_BRR, similar to his other shot, a major fuel bomb type explosion. He seems to be up on a crane or an art car or something here to get this shot. Very cool. Good stuff. A lot of really good photographers go to Burning Man and get incredible work. Here's one of my oldest shots. This is from 2007. This is a combination of two trucks. I've actually heard this piece is in Las Vegas, near the downtown. I haven't managed to drive by it yet, but I would like to visit the piece. It was a beautiful piece made out of two oil trucks. And they've closed it down on the permanent installation. But at the time, you could crawl up inside there. I didn't want to do it, but other people were doing it. And I also think this is a good shot because the girl with the wings and her bicycle, she's just kind of perfectly parked in front of it, the shadow, and she's checking out the art piece. But like a lot of other Burning Man people, she could just hop right back on her bike and go somewhere else. There's no reason to stick with this art piece. There's a lot of art pieces to go look at. And again, you can enjoy something like this with no drugs at all. It's very much you do what you want to do. You want to do a lot of things. You want to drink a lot of things, whatever. Fine. You want to do nothing? Great. You want to make some art? All right, let's do it. And it's just a very good place. A lot of people have good attitude there. And this is one of my shots from Burning Man 2008, kind of a dusty year. I think this is the Rites of Passage Man, something like that. It's not very descript, but you can see how this would burn good too. That a lot of the structures are planned with the idea that we're going to burn them later. This has a really nice dust. I was hanging out with these people. They're about to shoot a picture. Got some dusty people over here. It's a good shot. A lot going on. And then the man was just up on a kind of a Y that year. It's kind of strange. Apparently the internet was debating Adam Sandler versus Will Ferrell sports movies. So I said, let's just cut to the chase. Here are the best two. And we had a vote. Happy Gilmore versus Talladega Nights. 173 people voted. And Happy Gilmore trounced Talladega Nights. Smashed it. 67% to 32%. Just crushing. We all know Happy Gilmore's the best. Talladega Nights is nice. I like the, no disrespect meant, but you're a jerk. That's classic. And then where he's praying to baby Jesus, not full size Jesus, but the baby version. That was pretty great. It's a funny movie. I definitely enjoy them both. If you haven't seen them, great time to watch Happy Gilmore and Talladega Nights. Kind of sports themed. Even if you're not into sports, though, they're silly guys doing silly things. You can laugh at it. It's fun. And it seems like more testing is likely in wealthier neighborhoods. The 5 New York City zip codes with the highest rates of positive tests for coronavirus have an average capacity per capita income of $26,000, while residents in the 5 with the lowest rates had an average income of $118,000. It's almost as if the virus is attacking people who don't have money. If you don't have money, you can't stock up on food. If you don't have money, you can't stay inside. You can't not go to your job. You can't work from home. You don't have a laptop and a webcam and a microphone to work from home and whatever else you need. So yes, it does seem like there is a socioeconomic class divide when it comes to the virus. We're going to talk more about this, I think. I got a poll coming up. Trump mentions this week's stock market gains, but hasn't mentioned the fact that nearly 17 million Americans filed unemployment claims in the last 3 weeks. Remember, the things you talk about are the things that are important to you. He talks about the stock market gains because they're important to you. He doesn't talk about the unemployment because it's not important. Just when we needed more good news, Krakatoa, the volcano, is exploding. Let's check this out. This video is particularly exciting because it has lightning in the volcano. Ooh, look, they have the actual point of explosion. Volcanic lightning right there on the inside already. But yes, somebody was just pointing a camera at this thing, expecting it to go off. That's why they shoot things like when the president's airplane takes off and such. Like, if something bad happens, you want to have the film, But wow, what a stunning volcano opening. This opening, I don't know I've ever seen that of the initial boom. They have it so well. It's not like 9/11. Nobody had to turn the cameras oh shit, what is that? No, they knew this was going down. And here's a nice close-up. It's even got some sound of Krakatoa exploding and the volcanic lightning. Ooh, interesting. I'd love to read an article, figure out why that's happening. But right now, it just looks sweet. Boom, boom. That's one thing I didn't get to see in Hawaii was lava and volcano. I think I saw some volcanoes from far away, like mountains that are volcanoes, but I don't know that I want to go that close to lava and stuff. But then at the same time, I do. And I want to drop metal in it, and I want to drop plastic in it. And I don't know. I want to do a bunch of experiments with lava, and I don't think it's safe at all. And I don't think I should be allowed to do those experiments. So it's probably good that I didn't see a volcano up close. I did watch the movie Joe versus the Volcano, and it was worse than I could possibly imagine. To have Tom Hanks and what's her name, Sleepless in Seattle, Meg Ryan, to have both of them in the same movie and to make such a terrible movie, it's almost worth watching because it's so terrible. And then Meg Ryan plays like 3 different characters, and it doesn't make any sense. And basically, Tom Hanks is in love with each one of them because he's in love with Meg Ryan. It's a theme. I don't know. Joe versus the Volcano. You probably never heard of it, but you should go check it out because it's terrible. Speaking of the moon Carl writes, only 32 days until the next Bitcoin halving or halvening. Halving or halvening. I could see a future poll in that. I'm with the halvening because I think it sounds more fun. It's kind of a Doge word, but remember Doge is kind of a part of Bitcoin too. Halving seems more scientific, more accurate as to what's happening. The reward supply is halving, but the halvening seems more like the Christmas, the event where the reward supply halving happens. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up and a share. 27 people supported this show with a thumbs up, and that helped us find 51 live viewers. So thanks for joining us. And a lot of people are also supporting this show with a thumbs down, and that's okay too. If you showed up to hate the show and maybe it's not supplying with enough hate or there were too many books, something. So thumbs down are cool too. But it's good to be interactive, right? Let's get interactive with the YouTube. It's not just TV. You can't just sit there. You can if you want, but it's much less fun. And there's a chat too. You guys should go join the chat. Get your opinions in there. No one cares. Do whatever you want. Well, be polite, but yeah. Bill Gates crosses the digital Rubicon, says mass gatherings may not return without global vaccine. And I love it that it's the nerds who probably stayed inside most of their lives anyway who are delivering the sad news to you that, yes, until the vaccine gets here, things don't return to normal. And even then, it won't be normal. It's going to be this new normal where people with gloves are normal and people with masks are normal and people with like full hazmat suits are normal. And you just kind of shrug your shoulders and walk along. But yeah, we're not even going to get to that until we get the vaccine. Wisconsin, the state where American democracy went to die. It's a pretty great article. This is from The Guardian. I remember you get the best information about the United States from outside of the United States. That's right. Good. I'm glad we're all paying attention. Less than 72 hours before polls opened in Wisconsin on April 7th, the state legislature conveyed to weigh an emergency request from the governor, Tony Evers. With COVID-19 cases in the thousands, Everett implored the lawmakers to delay in-person voting for the state's presidential primary and mail a ballot to every voter in the state. It was a meeting only in name. Republicans, who control 63 of 99 seats in the state assembly, sent just one member. He brought the session to order, then immediately ended it without taking up the governor's request. It took just 17 seconds. In the Republican-controlled state Senate, the same thing happened, according to Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. It took even less time. The legislators' defiance was a naked display of unabashed power, an elected body refusing its governor's request and turning its back on its constituents in a time of crisis. The Republican lawmakers, who didn't even bother to show up for the emergency session on Saturday, knew that their re-election was guaranteed because of a successful party effort over the last 10 years to entrench themselves in power. Even in the state at the center of some of the most hard-nosed fights over voting, it was a stunning series of events. That assault on democracy began in 2011 when Republicans drew new lines for political districts in Wisconsin. It was part of a national Republican effort called Project Red Map to capture state legislators and, with those victories, to gain control over the redrawing of lines of each district. The goal of Red Map was to conjure districts that would advantage Republicans and disadvantage Democrats, a process called gerrymandering. The writer and author David Daley called Project Red Map the most audacious political heist of modern times. And you should read his book. It's called Rat Fucked. I read it years ago when it came out, and you could learn all about gerrymandering and how they redraw the lines to change the results of democracy. If we just all vote, we'd get the results. If we all vote in districts, and you can redraw the lines of the districts, maybe even using advanced computer metrics, maybe having information about where people live and what they buy and where they'll move and where they came from and all kinds of information about what they want, allowed you to create the greatest political maps of all time in 2011. And it was just on the back of that plan, Project Red Map. It's not an illegal plan. It's just a dastardly and brilliant anti-democratic plan. They ran at all the weak points. They took all of their big money and they put it at all the weak points. And the Democrats weren't prepared at the weak points, right? So all the weak points fell. They won everything in 2011. Everything that mattered to redraw the districts, they won. It was brilliant. The Obama people were they had nothing. They had nothing at all. Their plan was to win the presidency every 4 years. And they won in 2008 and they won in 2012. That was it. They didn't have anything else. Meanwhile, all around them, this brilliant redistricting plan just smashed democracy. It took away the ability of people to vote because it didn't matter. You were in a Republican district or a Democratic district. And one of the most exciting and destructive things that this Project Red Map did, and even the people who created the project didn't even know it would do this, or maybe they did and they didn't care, but it hurt them too, is it made it so in one of these districts that's a Republican-only district, where it's, say it's like 70% Republican, it's always going to be Republican. You don't have to run a more moderate Republican. If you're a more moderate Republican, the kind of person who listens to the other side, comes to a compromise, and makes a bunch of deals, the kind of person the Senate was designed for, you're going to lose because you're going to get a challenge from a more extreme Republican, someone from the far right. So it empowered the far right. But on the same point, in the Democratic districts, you got a district, say it's like 90% Democrats, like you stacked all of the Democrats in the state into that district. You drew it all crazy. It looks like, goofy fucking Donald Duck. Let me get that district up. This is worth breaking it to get. But yes, you drew the lines all crazy. 90% of the Democrats are in one district. Yeah, it's got it. Gerrymandering. Let's see. This is a district. This is the worst district in America. This is in Pennsylvania. Let's see. Here it is on the real map. So yeah, here's a district. You see, they have to be connected by a single point. So this district famously looks like Goofy and Donald Duck. I think it's Goofy kicking Donald Duck. It's the official. Yeah, Goofy kicking Donald Duck. And this is a legit political district. This is not a joke. It seems like a joke. But yeah, you've got 90% of the Democrats in one district. What you're going to do is they also can't compromise now. Democrats who compromise are just as weak as Republicans who compromise. Never mind the fact that the whole Senate is about compromise, right? The Senate is designed to slow things down, to encourage compromise so that we get more moderate laws and less extremism, right? That's the official way they designed it. They designed it to be slow, right? They designed it so you'd have to compromise. Instead of a Democrat who compromises, you're going to get challenged from the left. So you're going to get a more extreme Democrat. So now, after 10 years of this incredible gerrymander, truly the greatest, like hats off. You guys did it. Like, when it comes to cheating at democracy in a legal way, like in a quasi-legal way, I think quasi is an important word there. We need to get our big legal books out. Like, you did it. You wrecked it. But again, it didn't even really work for them because it just brought out the far left and the far right. And now the far left can't agree with the far right. So the Senate can't function. So there are no bills. So nothing's happening at all. It's been a disaster. Read the book Rat Fucked by David Daley. Learn about gerrymandering and redistricting. It's not too late. There's lots of knowledge out there. Now, where's that article? Where the hell were we? We have lost the thread. Anyway, we're working our way through Twitter, and there was a great article about American democracy dying, and we talked all about it, and it happened because of gerrymandering, right? It happened because they redrew the district. In many ways, they might even regret it too. They might even say, you know, we succeeded too much. And it's a lot like a story from World War II. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, the general at the time, I think Yamamoto, might have been in charge either of the group or the whole force. They had incredible success on their first two waves. They took almost no casualties. But the point of the attack wasn't to take no casualties. The point of the attack was to blow up the oil derricks so that the ships couldn't refuel at Pearl, right? They had to refuel at San Diego. It's not going to work. You can't drive across the whole ocean. You need oil derricks. Instead of shooting at the oil derricks and launching a third wave, which again would have taken casualties. The anti-aircraft guns were up by then. People were awake. They knew what was going on. They would have taken casualties, but they might have destroyed the aircraft carriers or the oil derricks. You have to complete the mission, right? You can't just redefine victory as not completing the mission. And while they completed the mission, they did it. They gerrymandered America. Incredible success. Did they really win the mission? Like, sure, they elected more Republicans. Like, these amazing new districts elected more Republicans, but eventually it didn't elect the kind of Republicans they thought it would. It elected a lot of these Tea Party Republicans, a lot of these far-right Republicans who are so extreme that they don't even agree with the guys who redrew the districts to give them these seats, and they'll fight them. So, but yes, it's been an amazing story. The redistricting, go read about it. Project Red Map of 2011, David Daley's book, Rat Fucked. Sorry for the bad title, but it's kind of what they did. Let's keep moving. Here's some more dramatic stuff to piss you off. But I really agree with this. This guy, Matthew Green, kind of nails old Paul Graham here. Paul Graham says, I favor small government, but not so small that it can't respond to a pandemic. Dealing with pandemics is exactly the sort of thing a good federal government should be able to do. And Matthew Green says, people have always assumed that they could pick between big government and small government. But that was never the choice on offer. It was always between competent government and incompetent government. And as he continues, expected result, I've spent my life advocating for small government, and yet the people who espouse this goal have built a huge government that has a knife pointed at my neck. I'll think hard about how I got duped here. Actual result, I'll just keep holding the same positions. So yes, I think this is a great way to redefine it. It's not really small government versus big government. It's competent government and incompetent government. And one of the problems with the people who are always telling you that government should be smaller is that they're also kind of arguing for government to be more incompetent, not staffing all the positions at the CDC, not staffing all the positions at the State Department, not hiring enough people so that the government can work, doesn't lead to the government being small. It leads to it being incompetent. We need people who are competent, people who can do what they say, people who have actual management experience. Balaji still hitting the drum on the flu journalists. He says, just the flu journalists insisted that it wasn't a big deal. Nothing to see here, despite being actively rebutted at the time. They've issued no retraction, no correction, no resignation. There's been no terminations and no apologies. I would like to see them issue an apology, but I would worry that it would open them to legal action. I think we're going to have to see how the Fox News case turns out. I asked a politically charged question this morning. You guys gave me a politically charged answer. Again, there's still a chance if you want to vote in this poll. It's on @MadBitcoin's Twitter account. Is the virus killing more people by race or by class? 135 people voted. 80% said by class. 19% said by race. And there's been a big movement lately to classify the virus deaths by race to get this information. And sadly, at the same time, there's not a similar movement to classify them by class, i.e., how much money do you make? How much money do you have? I think we'll find results similar to what they found on South Park. That the AIDS virus seems that money can cure it. Money can help you not get it. Money is important. And I think it's more important than class. I think that when they separate things by race, they're trying to separate people and divide them. When we say, hey, wait a minute, it's all of us poor people who got a shitty take. And the reality is a lot more of you are poor than think you're poor. And it's not a good deal. We saw earlier the information about New York City that the higher income areas had lower rates of infection. We'll wait for the results, and I'm curious to see, but I do not believe that it's a racist virus. I believe that it is a classist virus and that it's attacking the poor. And I think it's going to get worse in developing countries. I think we're going to see a large separation in developing countries, not based upon your racial background, but based upon your socioeconomic background. I think it's more important. This is an awesome old tweet here from Real-Time World War II. The signal is against holiday travel this Easter. And just another British propaganda poster from the Railway Executive Committee telling you that it's probably not a good time to travel this Easter. Hey, we did it. We survived the news. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And you guys managed to stick in there, most of you anyway, throughout the news. We're going to need more books for good people who survive the news. Let's see. I want to do these in order, kind of the order I went to them. Okay, so I went to the Neues Museum in Berlin. That means New Museum. And I saw it's the Egyptian Museum and Papyrus Collection, a museum of prehistory and early history. You can see right there. It was pretty interesting. I was curious about why they have this weird door that goes to nowhere. And I walked all around it and took lots of pictures and tried to figure it out if a janitor's closet or what the heck the reason was. And it turns out this was the original door of the museum before it was bombed. So kind of a World War II reference right there on top of a World War II reference. This museum, again, it flips right to it because I bought a postcard. This has the famous statue of Nefertiti. When I saw Nefertiti, sadly, her eyes had mostly gone away. She had white, pale eyes. The light in the room, I think they'd changed it, but of course, over the years, light destroys paint, and eventually maybe this statue will just be pale and white unless they take really good care of it or restore it. But this is a very epic and well-known image of Nefertiti that they have there in Berlin at the Neues Museum. Let's see, trying to find something. They had a lot of great rooms full of hieroglyphics and pieces sometimes even large reconstructions of parts of Egyptian temples in this museum. The building itself of this museum was fantastic. It was a period building as well, donated by one of the kings way back in history to be a museum. And it was just majestic and wonderful inside. Here's a picture of the back of the building. Doesn't really get it. But yes, part of the Museum Island collection of museums. You can buy a ticket that lets you go to all of them in like a couple days, like it lasts a couple days. Here's a courtyard from inside the museum. Very nice. Trying to show the pictures a little bit longer. Trying to do a good job. Hey, there we go. Oh, dude. Bad times. Ah, look at his face. I know. We all know that noses and other appendages fall off statues because they're not made like bones, right? They don't have a bone on the inside. It's just all concrete or statue material, and it breaks off. So that's why that happens. Noses, of course, are a big thing. Here's right here several old statues missing their nose. They weren't all shot off by Napoleon and his troops. That's probably not true about the Sphinx. It's more likely that the Sphinx's nose was the heaviest part of the statue and that it fell off first. Of course, the Sphinx herself might have been redesigned into a human face from another kind of face, but we're not really talking about Egypt. We were just talking about the new museum in Berlin. We got a little bit more of the German Historical Museum. This is one I went to after all the other ones. This maybe a year later for me. Loved it. It was great. Here's a cool postcard a friend of mine gave me. Bitcoin. That was from a party in Berlin. But yes, this was a great museum. German Historical Museum I was walking around. I saw a hat that kind of looked like a Napoleon hat or like a Napoleon uniform. And I was like, I wonder if they have any more Napoleon stuff here. And 2 aisles over, I found Napoleon's hat that he left behind after Waterloo. They also had his spurs and his sword. They found it in his carriage. He left in such a hurry, he probably had to jump right on any available horse. And it wouldn't have been a great idea to wear the famous Napoleon hat. Everyone would know that it's you. So yeah, he just rode off in a huff. Here's pretty cool. There's a machine gun. That's kind of cool. Very old machine gun. A lot of the pictures in this book are small. It's not really turning out great for showing you. But it was great to see Napoleon's hat and his spurs and his sword. It was a treat. And the other thing I loved about this German Historical Museum is I kept saying to it, I was working backwards. I'd started in the future and was working backwards. And I kept saying, show me something older. Show me something older. And this museum kept satisfying me. It went all the way back to the creation of the German language in 500 to 1500 BC. Pretty cool. So definitely check out the German Historical Museum if you're in Berlin. So did 2, but there's still 2 more. I also went to the Bodhi Museum right here on the back. There you go. You can see I paid €10 for this book. Good deal. And this is the Museum of Byzantine Art in the Bodhi Museum. So let's look at Byzantine art. I also saw a lot of Byzantine art, of course, usually the gold, the frescoes, the flat faces. I saw a lot of Byzantine art in Greece. I went to a big Byzantine art museum there, and it was fantastic. So the Bodhi was a great museum full of sculptures. It's their sculpture museum, and it's part of Museum Island right there in Berlin. So I have been to most of the major museums on Museum Island, but I'd love to go again. It'd be great. So we can't go anywhere now. So that's one of the nice reasons I'm trying to share these books with you guys, is because you can just kind of dream about the future and the places that we might go. And you might go, and I might go. We can all go places someday. We get a vaccine. So this was the sculpture collection in the Bodhi Museum. They got me for 2 books there. It took $20 off me. But I just love these books. I think museum books are the best. There's always lots of full color pictures of interesting things. And while I certainly take pictures of almost everything, there's always something you miss. And it's always great to have that extra information about the art and the artist that a picture, even if you cap the the card next to the work, as I often do. Picture isn't quite as good as having a little paragraph or two from the museum people who know about it. So I think that's about it for your distraction. Let's see. Here's another card. Oh, it doesn't come out. Aw, come on, card. Oh, here we go. It says Pop Kicker by Jurassica Parka. Kind of cool. Looks like it's a show in Berlin. It says on the back, Pop House Retro, Jurassica Parka, U7, Bambi Mercury, Lucky Pierre, Ipex, Karina, Viola, Col de Paris. Oh, it's also a drag show. Drag show Tu Jade Pearl Baker, Gasti Entertainment. That means food. Like Ryan Stecken, Jackie O, all kinds of people. It was on the 13th of Huli. So we missed that one. But Pop Kicker. Interesting. Probably just found that at some bar or coffee shop in Berlin. So pretty fun. But I think we have only one thing left. It is Saturday. Saturday is historically a relaxing and more of a chill day. So I suppose the choice is yours. We'll give it to the crowd. You can call in. We'll do calls. I'll talk to people, or I'm going to read this big article about baseball. It's not, I don't know that it's quite as good as the previous big article that I read about baseball, which was a April Fool's classic joke. I'm trying to find the call buttons. I'm not seeing them. Oh, wait, all graphics. Here we go. Now we're getting it. So you could call now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. How's it going in your neck of the woods? Are you tired of staying inside? Did you watch Jaws and Idiocracy? Are you ready for the future? The future of wearing gloves and staying inside? I don't think we get a lot of choice in the matter, but you can call now and tell us what's going on. Or we might read this big article. All right. This article is mostly like an oral history. So it's like interviews. People are describing what happened in this interesting story about baseball. And I trust me that, you don't have to be into baseball to hear this story. This is different. This is kind of like a human interest story. And it's also kind of a fun story like the movie Magnolia, right? Where everything's connected and everything's connected to everything else. And here we go. I'm just going to read this and then we'll probably head to the end. If you want to call, I could still take your call in the middle of this, but I'd have to stop reading the article. So it'll be pretty jarring and disappointing to the one or two baseball fans in the audience. So shout out to Anthony Castro Vince, who wrote this article, looks like for MajorLeagueBaseball.com. Check it out. Wilmer Flores cried, and baseball changed. Many of us watched what went down at Citi Field the night of July 29th, 2015, when Flores, then the Mets' 23-year-old homegrown utility infielder, found out he had been traded and tried to hold back tears he couldn't control. It was a rare, relatable glimpse into the human element of the trade deadline, a riveting presentation of baseball theater. That moment, though, is even more important and engrossing with the benefit of retrospect. Whether Flores' tears directly led to his swap getting spiked remains a matter of dispute. But that terminated trade actually had bigger repercussions than the vast majority of deals that actually happened. Its ripple effects include the Mets winning the 2015 National League pennant with Yoenis Cespedes, the Brewers landing an uber reliever named Josh Hader, and Mike Fiers joining the Astros, the team whose sign-stealing scheme he would one day expose. Here, as told by those who lived it, is a story about an iffy hip, a smashed dinner plate, social media, airplane selfies, loyalty, emotion, and a sport forever altered by a broken barter. Isn't this great? I think this is great. All people quoted below are identified by their team and role at the time of the 2015 trade deadline. Wednesday, July 29th, 2015. A deal comes together. The Brewers began the day 44-57, 20.5 games back of the Cardinals in the NL Central. The Mets were just 52-48, 1 game back of the Nationals in the NL East. Doug Melvin, Brewers general manager. We weren't having a good year, and we were looking to make some moves. Carlos Gomez is one of the players we decided to move on from. Zach Binnison, Brewers pro scouting director. We still had Gomez for another year, 2016, so we didn't have to trade him. He was someone we'd acquired when he wasn't an established player, and we watched him develop at the big league level and had an emotional connection to him. But we were honest with ourselves and where we were as an organization, and decided we had to start this retooling process. Melvin. There were a number of teams that showed interest: Cleveland, the Astros, and the Mets. Sandy Alderson, Mets GM. We were looking for another bat in the lineup, and center field was an area where we thought we could add some offense. The media and the fans were at the point of not recognizing that need, but also sort of demanding that we acquire a bat. I do remember saying that if we got all the way to the World Series and lost it, people would blame that loss on us not getting another bat. So it was that moment in time when we felt we needed to make a statement to Mets Nation. Adam Fisher, director of Mets baseball operations. Gomez seemed like he was somewhat on the decline, but he was the best fit. Alderson. In the week leading up to the deadline, there were 3 players who were, quote, available. One was Gomez. One was the Reds' Jay Bruce. The other was the Padres' Justin Upton. We were having conversations with all 3 clubs, and we just weren't making any progress with San Diego and Cincinnati. So we ended up focusing on Gomez. Gomez, interestingly, was originally signed by the Mets as a teenage amateur in his native Dominican Republic. The Mets dealt him to the Twins in their 2008 trade for Johan Santana, and he was subsequently dealt to the Brewers for J.J. Hardy prior to 2010. Gomez. We were in San Francisco, and I knew one of those days I was going to get traded. Before we got on the plane to go back to Milwaukee, the manager told me I was close to being traded. Manason. We had gathered intel that Zach Wheeler would be available, so we just kept focusing on that. It was a bit scary because he had just had Tommy John surgery in March, and one of the things that was kind of ingrained in Doug's mind is that the GM of the Rangers, he had made a huge trade in the late 90s, trading Juan Gonzalez to Detroit, and one of the key players in that trade was Justin Thompson, who had just undergone shoulder surgery a few months earlier and never panned out. Melvin. A 26-year-old left-hander. Thompson just didn't turn out in that deal at all, and we had traded an MVP in Juan Gonzalez. Manason. So the idea of trading an important player for an injured player was a little scary, but we did a lot of research on Wheeler and had a lot of faith in our medical staff. Wheeler. You hear stuff about the trade deadline, but you're thinking you're on the DL, fresh off Tommy John, so nobody's going to want you. But I guess you learn something every day. Melvin. We knew Wheeler was 1 or 2 years away, but there's always risk with young pitching. And a lot of people liked Wilmer Flores. We thought he could be a 15 to 20 home run guy. And he was young and inexpensive. We talked about him playing third base, and we understood he was a good kid. Alderson. I don't remember the back and forth and who else was discussed, but it became the combination of the two. Wheeler and Flores. The one thing about Wheeler, though, is that he was hurt, so he wasn't going to be a help for us for the remainder of the season. Fisher. I think a lot of us, in the Mets front office, felt Wheeler and Flores was an overpay. Even though it did take Wheeler another year after that to get back, it seemed like a lot. But Sandy was willing to overpay. Alderson. Keep in mind we were still a game out of first place. It's not like we were going to the whip with a length lead and a couple of furlongs to go. We were still behind. Manason. We felt we had a good system, and that we could start supplementing it we could be really competitive quickly. That was the ideal scenario of that trade with the Mets. We thought it was a deal that could help us compete soon. And then things got weird. Melvin. I used to bring the scouts in for the trade deadline to have them in the war room. We thought we had a deal, so we went to a restaurant to celebrate that we had a deal. Manason. We went to the Carnivore, a really nice steakhouse around the corner from the Pfister Hotel. I used to go there to a lot, at the point where I had my own knife there. I remember assistant GM Jord asking, "How'd you get a knife?" I said, "You come depressed after losses and spend money." So they were always good to me, and they had a basement area that was usually open. They had a TV down there, and I don't remember if it was the actual broadcast or MLB Network going to the Mets game, but we're watching the Mets game as news is getting out about the trade. Alderson. I hadn't even told the manager that Wilmer had been traded because I didn't want the manager to treat him any differently. I didn't want to tip it off, and more importantly, I didn't want to play with 24 players. Terry Collins, Mets manager. Sandy is tight to the vest on a lot of things. I knew Sandy well enough that if there was a deal, he would have called me and said, "Get this guy out of here." Alderson. The deal wasn't finalized until sometime during the game, and then it became unfinalized. New York columnist Joel Sherman first tweeted that the Gomez deal was a done deal at 8:57 p.m. Eastern Time. Subsequent reports on Twitter indicated that Flores and Wheeler were the pieces going to the Brewers. Flores. In the 7th inning, I came up to bat, and I got a standing ovation for some reason. I got confused. Then I hit a ground ball, got an out, and while I'm walking to the dugout, I get another standing ovation. Craig Counsell, Brewers manager. We were on the plane watching it. Watching Wilmer Flores, and it was just very 2010s, you know what I mean? It really was. Flores. I got back in the dugout and asked one of my teammates what was going on. Nobody knew. They had no idea. So I asked a friend to look on his phone. I shouldn't say this, and I'm not going to say who it was, but he went into the clubhouse and he looked at his phone and he came back and he said, "You've been traded." Then I went myself and checked my phone. That's when I saw the news. And then I came back to play defense. Collins. David Wright was injured at the time, and he comes out of the clubhouse saying, "Hey, it's all over the TV that Wilmer has been traded." I say, "David, I don't know a thing about it. You see that phone over there? That phone goes to Sandy. That phone is not rung." So now it's going on, and Wilmer starts crying. Flores. It definitely caught me by surprise. That was one of the reasons I got a little bit emotional, because I didn't know I could get traded. A lot of players feel that way when you play 5 or 6 years in one place, especially the place that signed you for the first time. You come up with all of your teammates, and that's where you want to stay, and that's where you think you're going to play forever. Daniel Murphy, Mets second baseman. You're feeling a lot of sympathy and empathy for Flo in that moment. He's having to deal with the real world, real-life problems on a national stage, basically. Here he is, laid bare for the whole world. There wasn't much you could do to make the situation any less raw in the moment. Collins. He came off the field and I said, "Wilmer, believe me, if you were traded, I would know about it. You've got to settle down and finish this game up." Manason. We're looking at the dinner table, looking around, wondering why he's still in the game. Melvin. We thought he was our player, and Carlos is on the airplane thinking he's going to be a Met. Counsell. I called Carlos to the front of the plane and told him he'd been traded. We were both crying. I was very close with Carlos, beginning as a teammate. It was very sad. And then he went to the back of the plane and told his teammates, and they're taking pictures. Fisher. So now social media is blowing up. Gomez is on the team plane, and his teammates are saying goodbye to him and taking selfies. Counsell. It was like a going-away party. Collins. Finally, Sandy called me and said, "You've got to get Wilmer off the field. He's crying." Flores. Terry Collins took me out of the game in the bottom of the 9th inning. So then I go into the clubhouse. The game is over, and I go into the trainer's room. And Mets Chief Operating Officer Jeff Wilpon comes to me and says, "There's no trade," he says, Don't worry. There's no trade. I was just confused. Why the deal fell apart. Fisher. I left the office that night after the game fully thinking the trade was going to go through. But Sandy and assistant GM John Rico went downstairs after the game and met with the doctors, and the doctors let them know that Gomez's medicals weren't going to fly because of his hip. I'm walking to get on the train, and I get word that the deal is dead. Alderson. I was downstairs in the trainer's room, and that's when the decision was relayed. The doctor, our team physician, Dr. David Altchek, wasn't at the ballpark, but he reviewed Gomez's medicals and made the decision. Melvin. We're sitting at the restaurant. I get a call, and Sandy says, we aren't going to be able to pass Carlos on the physical. I was a little surprised. You're kidding? We can't make this deal? And Gord says to the scout, oh, that's just Doug joking again. I got off the phone and I said, I'm not joking. There is no deal. The guys were a little bit upset. Venation. I picked up my plate and slammed it on the table. I must have hit it in just the right spot because I cracked it in half. Alderson. They were upset. They thought we reneged on them. Reports as to why the deal didn't go down varied, ranging from the Gomez medicals to the Wheeler medicals to the Mets asking for relief of some of Gomez's remaining salary to a simple change of hearts by the Mets because of Flores' display of emotion. Flores. I've heard a lot of stories about why the trade didn't happen, that maybe they just decided they didn't want to trade me. Melvin. When I got the call, we couldn't help but think that that had something to do with it. I'm not going to sit here and say that because I wasn't there with the Mets, but if you're watching it, most of our people thought the Mets were reacting to the emotion. Fisher, there was no conspiracy, no mystery to it. Gomez had a clear issue. Alderson, I didn't really fight with the doctors. They felt strongly about it. Honestly, I don't recall another situation in my 8 years in New York where a deal was killed by our doctors. We had other deals that were derailed because of the doctors on the other side, but not in our case, or at least, not one that had gotten to the point that this one had. Counsel, I called Carlos back to the front of the plane and said, it's not happening. Gomez, in that moment I felt upset that they were saying something that wasn't true, that I'm hurt when I'm not. In mid-June, Gomez had undergone an MRI of his adductor muscle and groin. The MRI, which came back clean, had been reported in the media as an exam of the hip. Gomez, I didn't miss one game because of the hip. I had some inflammation from a diving catch, and it was in my groin area, not my hip. It was just soreness, like from a regular play. Melvin, we thought Gomez was fine. I don't know what happened. Our trainers thought everything was okay, but Sandy said their doctor had some concerns, and that happens. Alderson, I think Doug Melvin was unhappy, and their owner was even less happy. I don't think it was that year, but the year after we tried to make a deal with the Brewers, and that was a non-starter, he laughs, which I kind of understood. Manation, it was disappointing not to get two talented major league players. Even more so, my concern was, what does this do to Gomez's trade value going forward? It was going to get out that he had failed a physical. Melvin, I said, hey guys, buckle up. We have to be back in the office tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and let's see if we can move Carlos before the next night's game. Thursday, July 30th. The Brewers regroup. Counsel, I always thought that Doug Melvin, and I'm pretty sure Sandy, did a fabulous job. Both GMs got right back on their feet. They didn't have a lot of time to operate because the deadline was coming. Melvin, it was a quick turnaround, but our guys were on the ball. We had studied Houston. Manason, Houston had sort of crossed the bridge where all of a sudden they're a super competitive team. We thought they were in a good position to give up young players and make a push for the playoffs, so we started scouting them early. We had 6 different observations of Josh Hader at AA Corpus Christi, and if I remember, the last one was on July 27th. And the scout was Corey Melvin, Doug's son. He saw him up to 97 miles per hour in a 2-inning stint, and then we got word that Astros manager A.J. Hinch wanted to bring Hader up and have him throw out of the bullpen, so he was definitely one of our main players of interest. Hader. We were in Midland, playing the A's organization in the Texas League. There was a rumor beforehand that I might get dealt. I had been traded before by the Orioles for Bud Norris in 2013, so I was prepared for it. Manason. When Houston asked for Gomez's medicals, I knew we had a chance for a deal. We started talking to Houston. Houston had the idea of exchanging medicals right away. Melvin. Houston GM Jeff Luhnow and I agreed to exchange physicals before we even exchanged names. Manason. Credit to Houston. They were aggressive. Melvin. Hader and Domingo Santana were the main two guys in the trade. I kept trying to get Brett Phillips, and Jeff had asked me about Mike Fiers. Fears. I still had another full season before arbitration, so I would have thought Milwaukee would have kept me. But we had a lot of young pitchers coming up, and I was a little older, 30 at the time, and they weren't trying to win. Melvin. I said, Jeff, we can expand this deal. I'll include Fears, but I would love to have Phillips and one smaller piece to make it a 4-for-2 trade. So we went back and forth on about 6 to 9 names, and then we agreed on Adrian Hauser and some international bonus money. We had it done around 5 o'clock, when the team was coming off from batting practice. Gomez. They said, go. You've been traded. I said, again? Counsel. We went through the whole thing again. Gomez. I'm emotional because I'm thanking them for the opportunity to be the player I am. But my reaction was like, how can the Mets say to the baseball world that I'm hurt when a couple hours later, some team gives up some of the best prospects in the organization for you? Fears. I was sitting in the hot tub. Laughs. Someone came in and said, hey, Counts wants to see you in his office. They just sat me down and told me I was going with Gomez to Houston. It wasn't that emotional to me. The Astros were in first place at the time, and we weren't going to make the playoffs. So I was really just glad to go to a team that had a chance to make the postseason. The Mets reassessed the market. Wheeler was in Port St. Lucie, Florida, rehabbing from his elbow surgery, and he calls me up. Wheeler, I really loved being in New York, and I wanted to be a part of that team and organization and win some ball games with them. I knew there was something special with us starters there, and I wanted to be a part of it. So me and my agent talked, and he said, if you want, you can call Alderson. It's not very common, if at all, but I was like, you know what? What is there to lose? Alderson. He said, I know I'm hurt, but I don't want to be traded. I really want to stay with the Mets. Wheeler. I wasn't trying to persuade him because obviously it is a business. I recognized that then, and I recognize that now. It's their job to make the team better, whatever the cost. But I just wanted to let him hear from me that I really loved playing there, and I wanted to be there. Alderson. I wish I was a little more detached, but, that had an impact on me. I pretty much said, don't worry about it. Won't happen again. So that had an impact on how we went about the rest of the deadline discussions. Basically, Sandy had zeroed in on Upton. Alderson. We played a day game against the Padres that day, and it was a bizarre game. I think there were 2 rain delays, and we had a 2-run lead in the 9th inning, and lost the game. It was incredibly deflating after having just lost the Gomez deal. But I think the biggest consequence of that game was not to us and our morale, but to the Padres, who had renewed hope that they might have a shot at the playoffs. So basically, Upton came off the table. Fisher. The price we got for Bruce was prohibitive, so that was not as serious as we got to deadline day. Friday, July 31st. The Mets find their man. For real this time. Alderson. Up until that point, it wasn't well known, and I don't know whether the Tigers had even mentioned the possibility that Cespedes was available. I think they made a last-minute decision to make him available. Collins. The day of the trade deadline, we had heard that Cespedes might be available, so I called Detroit manager Jim Leland and said, are you guys going to move him? He said, I believe we are. And Terry, I'm telling you, this guy's a great player. My concern is whether he could play center. Jim said, he's been playing left for us, but I don't see why not. He's athletic as heck. So I just relayed that information to Sandy. Fisher. You know Sandy in Moneyball. Cespedes did not fit our approach. That's a really big thing when you're adding a big bat to the lineup. He also famously said he wouldn't play any position rather than left field for the Red Sox in 2014. That's why he hadn't been on our radar until that point. Alderson. Detroit was insisting on Michael Fulmer, who was our top pitching prospect and a guy we really liked. Some of our guys thought his performance was even better than Matt Harvey's a couple years before. Detroit kept insisting that that's who they wanted. The second guy they insisted upon, right-handed Luis Cessa, we didn't feel as strongly about. Fisher. Sandy basically spent a whole day trying to get Fulmer out of the deal, but it was pretty clear he was going to do whatever it took to make his team better. If they weren't going to take anyone but Fulmer, Fulmer was going to be in this deal. Alderson. 20 minutes before 4 p.m. we said, okay, we'll give you Fulmer and Cessa, and the deal went through just a few minutes before the deadline. The aftermath. A love-hater relationship. Gomez. When I got traded, my first question was, did you guys get really good players for me? Because I had good feelings for that organization, and I wanted them to do better. Manason. You have to hope to be fortunate in some cases, because we only know so much. I think the Brewers' player development staff working with those guys and being open-minded and exciting to work with them helped. Hater. Really, they didn't try to change much when I came over, which was nice, but they did make me more consistent in my delivery. Melvin. We had questions on Hader. Baltimore traded him and Houston was willing to trade him, so I kept asking, why is this? Have we done our due diligence? And a lot of people said, he's going to be a reliever. Well, there are a lot of relievers. So what level of reliever is he going to be? Counsel. I would guess the Astros probably didn't think he was a starter. That's why they traded him. We thought he was a starter, so maybe they were right. But the way he got stronger, his fastballs became arguably one of the most special pitches we've seen, as far as swings and misses. He developed. He got better. Going in shorter stints really helped change who he was, because he's got one special pitch, and he can let it go full octane in shorter stints. From 2017 to 2019, Hader made 151 relief appearances covering 204 and 2/3 innings for the Brewers. In that span, his strikeout rate was 44.6%, whip 0.85, and opponents' average against 146. Were all tops among relievers. He was voted the Trevor Hoffman National League Reliever of the Year in 2018 and 2019. Melvin, he's turned out to be a really good reliever. Outstanding. Counsel, we got Hader, we got Adrian Hauser, who's going to be a starter for us, we got Domingo Santana, who hit 30 home runs for us in 2017, and we got Brett Phillips, who ended up being Mike Moustakas for us in a 2018 trade with the Royals. So it worked out pretty well for us. Gomez, I feel happy for the Brewers. Nearly 4 years after his potential trade back to the Mets fell apart, Gomez returned to his original team on a minor league deal in 2019. He hit just 198 in a 34-game cameo before being let go in July, but he did hit a dramatic homer in a comeback win against the Nationals in May. He is now retired. A Cespedes for the rest of us. Collins. At that particular time, we were battling, trying to hang in there. When a deal like that is made, the entire attitude and atmosphere of the clubhouse changes immediately. Flores. We were chasing the Nationals in second place, and we just took off. Alderson. We made the deal on Friday, and Cespedes didn't show up till Saturday. But on Friday night, Wilmer hits a home run in the 12th inning to win the game. That was unbelievable. Collins, you talk about storybook. That got us going. Alderson, oddly enough, the non-trade was one of the greatest things that ever happened to Wilmer. He will be remembered in Mets lore forever, and it was great for Wilmer because it gave him a chance to show his own attachment to the organization, and it led people to learn about his own personal story. Flores, fans want to know that you care. When they find out you do, it makes a different relationship. Murphy, for us to keep him was big, because he ended up playing shortstop in the World Series after Ruben Tejada broke his leg. We were happy to keep Flo, and we were definitely happy to get Cess. In his first 6 weeks with the Mets, Cespedes put up video game numbers: 17 homers, 10 doubles, 3 triples, and a 1.048 OPS in 188 plate appearances. Collins, Cess was a different maker. Flores, he was Babe Ruth. Gomez, the Mets, for that moment, got one of the best outfielders, and he proved it for them. He carried that team. Murphy, no one expected Yo to do what he did, but he just came in and got a hit at his first at-bat, and after a game or two, he just went crazy. We caught fire from there and made a run to the World Series. Alderson, it was Cespedes, and also out of nowhere, Daniel Murphy started swinging the bat with power. It all came together. Collins, Sandy had made other deals too to get Juan Uribe, Addison Reed, and Tyler Clippard. And you've got to give credit to our ownership group. They stepped up. Those are the kind of deals that put you over the top. Fisher, it's worth paying for the price of a player like Fulmer. He has a long injury history, but he wins the 2016 AL Rookie of the Year and is a Cy Young contender. He was better than we thought he was going to be, but at the end of the day, no one's thinking twice about the way it worked out. Alderson, if we had won the World Series, it would have been an immortal story. Now it's less so. Nonetheless, it was a great couple of months. The Mets re-signed Cespedes that winter and extended him again the winter after that. The latter extension has proved regrettable. Cespedes played just 119 games in 2018-19, leading Alderson to quip, "Don't buy a boat if you can't afford the gas. If you're going to sign a player for that amount of money, make sure you buy insurance." Alderson stepped down from his post with the Mets in the middle of the 2018 season while battling cancer. The following winter, the Mets conducted interviews to choose his replacement. One of the final 3 candidates? None other than Doug Melvin. Fears catches fire and then sets one. Fears, anytime you get traded, especially mid-season, you want to put a good show for that team and show why you got traded. Gomez, we were excited. The Astros believed we could help the team get better. Fears, I had a couple of rough starts. Not rough, just mediocre. To go to a first-place team and not perform, you put so much pressure on yourself, and that's what I did. But then I threw a no-hitter in my 3rd start. I had 63 pitches through 3 innings with 3 walks, and then ended up throwing a no-hitter. So it's just a great experience for me, and that team was there on a postseason run, and it helped that Carlos went over there with me. Gomez, we were right in the right spot to make the playoffs. And in the playoffs, we played the extra wild card game against the Yankees. I hit a big homer. We probably win the game because of that. And then we played Kansas City in the division series, and I hit a really big homer in Game 4 while playing hurt. I wasn't supposed to play because of an oblique tear. But then Kansas City came back and tied the game we were supposed to win on an error by Carlos Correa, and we lost. If that doesn't happen, we're probably in the World Series against the Mets. The following August, the Astros released Gomez in the middle of the 2016 season when he had a paltry .210 average and .594 OPS, leading to his brief return to the Mets. Fears. In Milwaukee, he was an everyday player. Houston is a very analytical team, so he just didn't get the at-bats he was getting in Milwaukee. He's a competitive, emotional guy. He sat many times when there was a righty, and I don't think he ever had to do that before. I think it took a toll on him. I don't think he really liked the way they ran things over there. Gomez, I did not do my job and I got released. How can I be upset? So I don't have anything negative to talk about that organization. We had some problems when I was there, but nobody needs to know about that. Sometimes, however, internal issues do become public. Had the Astros side of the 2015 Gomez trade ended there, it wouldn't be especially notable. Gomez obviously didn't factor into the Astros' 2017 World Series run, and neither in the playoffs did Fears, who was left off of the postseason roster after struggling late in the regular season. But in a November 2019 article in The Athletic, Fears was the whistleblower who had called out his former Astro teammates for a sign-stealing scheme that became the biggest baseball scandal in a generation. Commissioner Rob Manfred at Cactus League Media Day in 2020. Mike did the industry a service. I do believe that we'll be a better institution when we emerge at the end of this episode. Without a Mike Fears, we probably would have had a very difficult time cleaning this up. I have a real problem with anybody who suggests Mike did anything other than the right thing. Gomez. I have my personal memory of Fierce. He was a good teammate. He had his own reasons why he said what he said about the Astros. Alderson. Loyalty is a dangerous thing. It's an important quality, but you have to be careful that it doesn't supersede other qualities like moral courage and integrity. Fierce. Who knows what would have happened if I had stayed in Milwaukee? Wheeler. Things would have been a little different, huh? Melvin. After all the Astros stuff came out, somebody joked with me, "You affected all this stuff." I said, "What do you mean? I've done nothing today. Nothing." Manason. It's crazy how it all panned out. Alderson. It is crazy. Maybe the Astros will blame all of this on a Mets team doctor somewhere. Flores. Things happen for a reason. That's just how it is. So there you go. Fantastic baseball article for a Saturday morning. Things happen for a reason. That's just how it is. Shout out to Anthony Castro Vince at MLB.com, where he's been reporting since 2004. Read his columns and follow him on Twitter at Castro Vince. Great article, fantastic interviews. I love the oral history style where they just stack the interviews. You get to read the actual quotes for yourself. You get to decide if you believe the guy, if you don't believe the guy. It's all right there in the words. And what an amazing story. I mean, even if you're not into baseball, and I know half the audience went for the door, and that's okay. You don't have to listen. I'm going to read some big, long, dumb baseball article. But I think you can see how interesting it is. Flores cries. The team doctor says Gomez can't join their team. Gomez gets traded to another team. Cespedes gets traded to the Mets. The Mets make the World Series. The Astros get this guy Fierce, who later rats them out for stealing signs. What a story. What a story. So many ups and downs, so many players. I just thought it was great. Been trying to read it all week, so I finally got to it on Saturday. Sorry if it's not your thing and that kind of stuff, but I thought it'd be fun. And, you have the right to turn off the radio or whatever. So if you like this show, you want to support this show, you could donate now using the Bitcoin and Lightning QR code on your screen. Donate $5, $10. You can also donate in the chat using the $ button, the YouTube Super Chat. It's very easy. You can set it up with your credit card, and you can send me dirty fiat money, of which Google will take a healthy cut. One of the original reasons that I started the Mad Bitcoin Show is to help spread the word about this idea right here. Thanks to the power of Bitcoin, all you need to do is put a QR code on your t-shirt. All you need to do is put a QR code on your album, on your video, on your band, whatever it is, and people anywhere can scan the QR code and donate money to you without a middleman. You can jump over YouTube. You can jump over Google. You can give me directly funding, which will help the show right here. And I just thought that was the amazing power of Bitcoin. This ability to send to a QR code, to an address. You can copy and paste it anywhere. And the ability for anyone to donate without a middleman, no one to take a cut. You pay a little bit of a mining fee. You can use the Lightning Network if you don't want to pay a mining fee. But I just thought it was really amazing and a really powerful thing about Bitcoin and a fun article about baseball. So thanks so much for joining me on the Thomas Hunt Show. We did about a 2-hour show. We got 30 seconds left. We had some great books in the beginning. We talked about international books because it's Saturday. I talked about Berlin and the incredible Museum Island, which features 5, maybe 6 amazing museums, all within a short walk right there in the heart of Berlin. So check that out. Thanks so much for joining us. Give us a thumbs up and a share. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below. Hit the bell for notifications. It'll tell you when we do these shows. We also have announcements out on @MadBitcoins Twitter and @WorldCryptoNet on Twitter. We're on Periscope. We're on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up and a share on Facebook. Why not tell your friends that you watched some media that didn't come from the mainstream? It was independent. It was gritty. And it told you the truth. At least the truth as we see it, with the best information that we have right now. So thanks so much for joining us. It's been a great Saturday. We're going to be back again tomorrow with Sunday Big Book Day. It's the day when we show you books that are big. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.